I just made this skirt and I feel like I can wear it with anything in my closet. In this video, I'm gonna show you 1, how I got a really cool chevron effect with corduroy. 2, I'll give you 7 tips I learned while sewing it. 3, I'll share 5 outfit ideas with this skirt that I'm super excited to wear this spring. You guys know I love to take an intentional approach to designing my wardrobe. So if you want to see all the other projects I'm making this spring, be sure to check out my spring planning video where I go over everything I'm sewing this season, including this skirt. So I really like an A-line skirt on my body. It just has that classic 60s silhouette that works really well with all the tops and sweaters that are already in my wardrobe. I also like the way that it flares out from the waist, which I find creates a really nice silhouette on me. So I've been wanting a white, everyday skirt that's really comfortable, that goes with almost everything in my closet, and that I can wear all spring and summer. So I made the Colette Ginger skirt in a size 6. So while I'm talking about sizing, I want to point out that this is an older Colette pattern and it's available up to a size 18, which is not our current size range at Seamwork. If you want to make an A-line skirt like this and you need additional sizing, I'm going to link some options below. There's the Seamwork Sawyer skirt and the Seamwork Everly skirt. And our friends at Style Arc have a pattern called the Mary Ann skirt that goes up to a 61-inch hip. So check out those links below. So I made version 3 of the Ginger skirt, which is cut on the bias. And it's really intended to be made with a striped fabric, so you get a really cool chevron effect at the center front. I'm going to talk more about the fabric I used in a minute. It also has a high waist with a straight, wide waistband and a center back zipper. This pattern is intended to be an above the knee length, but I shortened it into a mini skirt, and I'll talk more about that later if you want to do the same. Okay, let's talk about fabric. So I used a Lady McElroy Dakota corduroy. It's a 4.5 wale cotton corduroy in ivory. And we have a video all about corduroy, so I'll link that below. I got this fabric from Stone Mountain & Daughter Fabrics, which is in Berkeley, California, my old stomping grounds. And we buy a lot of fabric from Stone Mountain & Daughter to make Seamwork samples, because they have such a wide range of garment fabrics. They have everyday basics, like this Lady McElroy fabric, but they also have unique dead stock fabric. And if you're ever nearby in Berkeley, be sure to stop in because their staff is so friendly and helpful. And if you're a Seamwork member, you get a special discount code for 15% off. And they do ship worldwide. I chose this corduroy because I had this idea of creating this bias cut skirt with a subtle chevron, but then doing it in a textural stripe rather than a printed or a woven stripe. So I chose a cotton corduroy, and I really wanted a wide wale so you'd be able to see the stripes. I also think this fabric has the perfect weight for an A-line skirt. It has just the right amount of body and maintain that triangle shape, but it's also not too stiff. You don't usually think of corduroy as being a warm weather fabric, but I think it works really well for spring when the temperatures are still a little bit cool. Now I want to show you how I sewed this skirt, some of the changes I made to the pattern, and I'll share a bunch of tips I learned along the way. The main thing I changed from the original pattern was shortening it. So I measured where I wanted the skirt to hit, then I cut at the length and shorten line, shortened it, and cut off the excess at the side seams. We have a whole tutorial for lengthening and shortening patterns, so I'll link that below too. Another change I made was to cut the inner waistband out of quilting cotton rather than corduroy. So using corduroy for both layers is going to create a really thick waistband, which makes it hard to get sharp corners. It also makes the waistband look really bulky and stand out from your body more, and it also makes the zipper really hard to use. So my first tip is if you're using a heavy or textured fabric for a waistband like corduroy, cut the inner band from something lighter like quilting cotton. And this is a great way to use up your scraps. I also fused the inner facing to the inner waistband rather than the outer waistband, so I wouldn't have to press the corduroy too much. My second tip is if you're using a fabric with a pile, like corduroy or velvet, find ways to minimize the pressing you need to do so you don't crush the pile. I have some more tips for pressing corduroy that I'll share in a little bit. I did have a little mishap with my corduroy. So when I pre-washed my fabric, I accidentally left a tag in, and a tiny splotch of ink got on the fabric. So when I was cutting, I made sure to mark the stain with a pin so I could see it on the wrong side of the fabric and cut around it. Luckily, I had plenty of fabric to work with, especially since I was shortening the skirt. So that's another tip. If you find a flaw, or if you accidentally create one like I did, mark it with a pin so you can see it on both sides while you cut. The stripes on this corduroy are pretty subtle compared to a printed stripe. I wasn't sure if I should spend the time carefully matching them at the center front, so I folded my fabric to mock up the center front seam to see what it would look like. I decided it wasn't noticeable enough to make a difference. So that's another tip if you're working with striped fabric. Before you cut out any pattern pieces, you can fold your fabric to mock up seams, and then you can decide for yourself whether stripe matching is really worth it for you. The first step for the skirt is to sew the waistband and sew the side seams. And I find that when I'm working with a thicker fabric, it's easier to finish the edges before sewing the seams. So I went over to my serger and finished all of the side edges before sewing. So that's a helpful tip if you're working with a bulky fabric. Just be careful not to remove any seam allowance when you do it. Now I have another pressing tip. I cut a square of the corduroy to use as a press cloth. I used this to cover my seam roll when I was pressing seams, because it provided some cushion for the corduroy so it doesn't get smashed on a hard surface. So that's another helpful tip for working with fabric that has a pile. Make a soft, cushy press cloth from your leftover fabric. And then when pressing, I only use the tip of my iron to press as little fabric as possible. When I turn it over, you can see that the pile hasn't been crushed. So my final tip is to only use the tip of your iron when you're pressing fabrics that have a pile. Then I just followed the instructions to put the rest of the skirt together and inserted the zipper. Before hemming, I tried on the skirt to double check the length, and it was actually just the right length for me. After I tried it on, I decided to top stitch the top of the waistband since the fabric is so lofty. I really love this skirt, and it's everything I imagined for a wardrobe staple this spring. Let's look at some outfits I'm going to build with it. This skirt would actually go with almost everything in my closet, but here are a few ideas I'm really excited to wear. If it's warmer, I'll just wear this white linen t-shirt with my ginger skirt. If it's cooler, I can put on this cropped sweater. I really love cotton sweaters. They're just so comfortable and they add just the right amount of warmth. I like this outfit with flat clogs. I only like to wear flats or low heels with a short skirt personally. An A-line skirt always looks good with a button-up, and chambray is sort of a classic and really minimal. I'd wear it either tucked in or tied at the waist. You could also wear a linen or a cotton shirt, whatever you have in your wardrobe. I'm wearing this with flat slides just to keep a clean and minimal look. I also have a soft pink bandana that I think always looks good with a button-up. The next look is a pink long sleeve top and red shoes. I love a pink and red combo just to add some spring color. If you want to make a long sleeve tee like this, check out the Seamwork Alice. I'll link it below. And the shoes are just some red suede mules. Next is a romantic black eyelet top and my black flat espadrilles. This is just a really pretty look that's easy to wear. I have a lot of lacy and romantic black tops in my wardrobe, and I think the white of the skirt really offsets them nicely. It makes it just a little bit more graphic. The espadrilles are really pretty and they just coordinate really well with the black top. Last is my Seamwork Callan sweater and some black loafers. I think any striped top looks great with an A-line skirt for that 60s French vibe. I chose some menswear inspired loafers for a look that's just really classic and comfortable. I made a whole project video about Callan, so if you want to see that, we'll link that below. I think it's so nice to sew something that you know with absolute certainty you'll wear at least once a week. Personally, I like to wear things on repeat. I like getting a lot of use out of what I have and finding different ways to style things I already own with a staple piece. I think it's really fun and creative, and it makes my sewing feel useful. Sometimes it can be hard to sew basics, and coming up with a lot of ideas about how to wear it can make it a lot more exciting. So what about you? Have you ever sewn something that you couldn't stop wearing? Comment and let me know what it is. And if you want to sew the ginger skirt or any of the other patterns I mentioned today, be sure to check out Seamwork. When you join, you get access to our entire catalog of over 200 modern sewing patterns, from quick and easy tops to wear anywhere dresses to tailored blazers and pants. We help you to design and craft your own wardrobe. Membership also gets you access to Design Your Wardrobe, our popular course that walks you through a process for laying out a seasonal wardrobe that you can sew. Plus, membership includes our library of dozens of sew-along classes, and best of all, access to our private sewing community, including tens of thousands of members, where you can post projects, ask questions, and even find sewing friends near you. I hang out there all the time along with Haley and the rest of the team here at Seamwork, and I'd love for you to join me. YouTube subscribers get half off a Seamwork membership, making it an incredibly good deal. To sign up, just click the button on screen or the link in the description below to claim your offer. I hope you loved this video, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one.